welcome to lesson 3 of week 10. We are still looking at 7.5G, which is describe the impact of word choice imagery and literary devices, including figurative language in an author's style. So the very first day, which was Monday, day 1, we looked at word choice and figurative language. The second day, yesterday, we looked very closely at imagery. You were asked to add to your poetry portfolio, which is going to be a work in progress throughout this week. And today we're going to look at even more figurative devices. As usual, grab a pencil and paper. I got it right that time. For those of you that are following along in RPS at home and doing the assignments that are listed below, I'm going to go ahead and give a little review of what I posted yesterday for you to complete. So on top of your note poem homework, you also were instructed to read the poem A Little Girl Tugs at the Tablecloth by Wisława Szymborska. Answer the following questions. The questions were, what is the purpose of writing this poem? What would happen if we weren't curious? And write down 3 uses of imagery in this poem. So if you were able to complete that, go ahead and grab those answers now along with your notes and note poem from yesterday. So I'm going to read this poem out loud, and whether or not you did the assignment last night, I'd like you to follow along and listen to our answers here, just in case. It starts with the title, A Little Girl Tugs at the Tablecloth. She's been in this world for over a year, and in this world, not everything's been examined and taken in hand. The subject of today's investigation is things that don't move by themselves. They need to be helped along, shoved, shifted, taken from their place, and relocated. They don't all want to go, e.g. the bookshelf, the cupboard, the unyielding walls, the table. But the tablecloth on the stubborn table, when well seized by attempts, manifests a willingness to travel. And the glasses, plates, creamer, spoons, bowl are fairly shaking with desire. It's fascinating. What form of motion will they take? Once they're trembling on the brink, will they roam across the ceiling, fly around the lamp, hop onto the windowsill, and from there to a tree? Mr. Newton still has no say in this. Let him look down from the heavens and wave his hands. This experiment must be completed, and it will. So going all the way back to the very first slide when I said the purpose of writing poetry is to appreciate life or explore life. This poem, does this seem more like it is appreciating life or exploring life? I hope you chose exploring, because this poem is about a little girl who wants to yank a tablecloth off a table, resulting in all the things on top tumbling to the ground just to see how they fall. That curiosity is the drive to explore life. So the first one, if you had anything in the realm of kind of exploring life, figuring out what it's all about, then go ahead and count that right. Number 2 does not have a right answer. What would happen if we weren't curious? What would happen if we never cared or anything worked or what anyone was doing or life's about? What would happen? It seems like that would make us very introverted, very introspective, right? Which is sometimes a beautiful place to be. But sometimes we need to have the drive and curiosity to explore life and get out there and yank tablecloths off of tables. Number 3, write down 3 uses of imagery in this poem. So imagery was the figurative device that we learned yesterday. In this poem, I see a lot of figurative devices. I see an allusion to Mr. Newton. I see personification, which we're going to learn later in this video. And I also see some solid imagery. So if you wrote down anything that is appealing to the senses, and in this poem it appears to be mostly sight, then that would count as something that shows imagery, aka well seized. Things that don't move themselves, trembling on the brink, shaking with desire, roam across the ceiling, look down from the heavens. All of those is appealing to the sense of sight when you look and you're seeing this whole picture that the author is creating. So to start out, looking at imagery again, I want to give you another example of a really cool poem written by a really cool lady named Nikki Giovanni. This poem is called Everything Good is Simple. And as you read, think about which images stick out the most in your brain. Everything good is simple. Everything good is simple. A soft-boiled egg, toast fresh from the oven with a pat of butter swimming in the center, steam off a cup of black coffee, John Coltrane bringing me violets for my furs. Most simple things are good. Lines on a yellow legal pad, dimples defining a smile, a square of gray cashmere that can be a scarf, Miles Davis, kind of blue. Some things clear are complicated. Believing in a religion, trying to be a good person, getting rid of folk who depress you, Horace Silver blowing the blues away. Complicated things can be clear. Dvorak's New World Symphony, Alvin Ailey's Revelations, Mae Jemison's Writing into Space, Mingus Live at Carnegie Hall. All things good are good. Poetry, patience, a ripe tomato on the vine, a bat in flight, the new moon, me in your arms, things like that. Also, this is read way better if you Google Nikki Giovanni on the radio reading this poem, and I apologize if I mispronounce any of the names in there. Some of them I'm not as familiar with, and as you look through this, you can tell that she's listing things that mean a lot to her. So take note of that, because when we are going to try to emulate this poem and write our own poems, we might not be listing Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. You might be listing an artist and a song that means a lot to you. I also want you to notice all of the small forms of imagery that Nikki Giovanni uses in this poem. Lines on a yellow legal pad. We can see that so visually. Steam off a cup of black coffee. You can feel that. A soft-boiled egg or toast fresh from the oven with a pat of butter swimming in the center. That smell and taste, and that is appealing to those senses that makes her writing more interesting based on the imagery used. So today's goal, we're obviously going to review imagery, which we've already done 2 pieces of, and we're also going to learn a brand new word called personification. It might not be new to you, but go ahead and make sure you have all your materials, like I said, because we're going to take some notes. All right, write this down. Personification, giving human characteristics to a non-human form. A lot of my students like this figurative device because the word person is in it. And if we're giving person-like characteristics to a non-person form, we can remember that definition pretty easily. Right here we have a character from the Disney movie Beauty and the Beast. He is a candlestick, but he talks and sings and does all sorts of things with his hands that normally a candlestick wouldn't be able to do. And that is Disney personifying an inanimate object. Remember to always pause if you need more time. To give you an example of how this is used in literature, because we could go on forever of how it's used in animated movies, but in literature it's also used to really bring life to objects and scenery. In this case, it's I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. This is one of those poems that's much longer, but I'm just going to show you a little piece so I don't take all day. He says, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on higher vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So as you can see, I have underlined the use of personification in this poem. The inanimate object that's being personified is a daffodil, which is living and breathing, but it doesn't have human-like characteristics. The human-like quality that is attributed to the daffodil is dancing in the breeze. Daffodils could flutter in the breeze, but do they dance? Not that I know of, but because he has personified these daffodils, it kind of brings color to this poem. We can picture it, we can feel it. It's a cool figurative device to use. We're starting off a little slow. Tomorrow we're going to take 2 words And today, since we reviewed imagery and you had homework, we're just going to do the personification. So don't forget it. That's our big word of the day. For homework, that poem I read earlier in this video, Everything Good is Simple, I would like you to write a poem emulating or imitating that poem. I provided a template and RPS at home. You're not going to be able to type right into it, but you're going to want to write on a piece of paper while looking at the screen to give you kind of a format of what type of poem you want to make. All you got to do is list things that mean a lot to you. Everything good is simple are things that she finds really good and really simple in her life. But she goes on to describe many types of things that might not be simple, but also could be good. So go ahead and fill those in with things that are important to you, and you're going to add it to your poetry portfolio. I'm so excited to see what you come up with. And while you're doing that, try to incorporate imagery, of course. You've had 2 whole lessons on imagery, so make sure you're using some imagery. And now try to incorporate one little means of personification. Thanks for tuning in to lesson 3. And keep all your stuff nice and neat. Make sure you finish up your creative homework, and I will see you tomorrow.